Good morning. This is Brighter Morning with Bo, and I'm Bo Tiwari. You are watching on MCTV, Multicultural TV. We go directly now to Mr. Derek Chin, who is a businessman and entrepreneur here in a number of services and entertainment businesses. So let's talk with him. Derek, I'm sorry we can't get you on the video because of the internet on your side, but let's talk a little bit. You have been an advocate for opening up for a long time. You couldn't understand why businesses would be closed. And we've had an opening up under certain conditions, and we are moving soon to a lifting of the state of emergency. How has your business responded? What has the experience been like, and do you look forward to the lifting of the state of emergency?
Good morning, Bo. Are you hearing me okay?
Yes, I'm hearing you clear.
Good. All right. Well, we opened on October the 11th, as you quite rightly said. I've always been sort of questioning the reason for having such an extended state of emergency and curfew and shutdowns. And obviously, you know, it's affected many, many businesses in Trinidad to the point that a lot of them have actually closed down for good. We opened on October the 11th, and we were obviously excited that at long last we were seeing some sort of light at the end of the tunnel. Since then, you know, we had the safe zone, which meant that your staff had to be fully vaccinated, and the public who came had to be vaccinated. It appeared to be a good idea, but to be quite honest, it hasn't really panned out to be what we thought it would be, because even with a safe zone, and one would think that a safe zone meant exactly that, there were just too many restrictions attached to it, which meant that it was really not a significant advantage for a patron to go through all of that and still have to conform to the restrictions, such as you know, social distancing, the wearing of the mask, the limited in alcohol for those in terms of the restaurant, the curfew times, and so on and so forth. So what we've seen is a sort of a gentle turnout in terms of people coming, but very, very far from what we were considered pre-COVID. And it still has been a struggle. It's good to have the opportunity to open back and to get some staff re-employed, but it is really not to the extent by which we thought that you know, we would see a more profitable type of business operation. Remember too that there's only about 50% of the population vaccinated, and of that 50%, they're asking you for a 50% capacity, which cuts you in half, and then of that, a percentage of that would be your potential market. So I took, like, say, 100 people as an example, and you would have a pool of 50, and you would cut that down by 50 to 25, and then you say take 20% of that. So 5 out of every 100 would be potentially your market. So it hasn't worked out as well as we thought it would have.
Okay. You mentioned that a lot of businesses have been closed. From your and probably will not open back. From your experience, do you know people who were engaged? You don't need to mention their names or what their businesses were. I just want to get the information from the experience rather than any kind of statistical speculation. Do you know people who have had businesses that you are familiar with who have closed down and decided they're not opening up?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Remember, we also have the mall and we have Tenants.
Yeah.
And you will see, if you walk through many of the malls in Trinidad, a lot of the spaces are advertised now for rent. And those used to be businesses that were there, people who, you know, may not be large businesses, but were making a living out of it. And they're no longer back in those shops. So one would expect that, well, either they found something else or they just didn't have the finances to continue. But in terms of movie town mall, yeah, we have had about 4 or 5 tenants who have decided that that's it for them. and some that are pretty well known and fairly substantial that they decided that's enough for them and they just couldn't handle, especially in the hospitality business, in the restaurant business, that they're no longer there today. And we've been struggling, obviously, to find alternative tenants.
Yeah. Has that affected the rental market, the real estate market? What do you think is happening there?
Oh, yeah. When we were able to get X percentage or X dollars per square foot, it's just now, but just trying to get the spaces filled. It's better to have half a loaf than nothing at all.
Yeah.
So it's really, we know that the market, people are obviously struggling to get a person to put out some money again to come back into a market that is very, very challenging, has resulted in us having to take some cuts. Sometimes, I know for one, we have a tenant that came in that we thought would be a nice tenant to have, and you're talking 4 or 5 months of no rent. They're not even paying a deposit because they'll have to use that money to do their construction and the outfitting. And we said, listen, we like you to be with us. We'll give you 4 to 5 months of free rent to get your place up and ready. And then come New Year, which is January, you will now start to pay some sort of rental. But it's like that. You have to offer all these kind of specials and take some hits just to get somebody to come in, Yeah. And it's not easy. It's been a constant challenge, lots of advertising, trying to get some people back into the business. And it's a very big challenge.
You sense that there's a hesitancy by people to not just to invest or to continue their investment, but also to do simple things like come back to the restaurant and so on. Are people worried because of the Delta variant situation on the one hand, and then the fact that so many people are unvaccinated? Is that a source of worry, you think, that is affecting human behavior in the marketplace?
I think you're hitting the nail on the head because just this last weekend, our numbers were 50% off what it was the week before. And we could only relate it to one thing because the movies are the same, the restaurants are the same, and we are seeing a 50% drop off. I mean, as big as that. So let's say last week we had 9 or 1,000 people on a Saturday for a movie at Movie Town. This weekend it was about 585.
Yeah.
Just to give you a number. And we were trying to figure out what could it be, and the only thing I could think of is the fear, that hesitancy, because the numbers have gone past with 500 and others for the last 3 days, Yeah. So I think the fear is still there. People are saying, boy, listen, I don't want to get this thing, I'm hearing people are dying and, a lot of people are living in that fear from even before, and this has just compounded the problem. So I think you're right. There is that hesitancy because of the recent numbers that have spiked.
Yeah. With the lifting of the state of emergency on Wednesday, that's 2 days from now, let's give it a week after that, say by the 24th or so. After that week, you think things are likely to get back to some level of, I don't know if I want to call it normalcy, because that in itself is hard, but some level of greater buoyancy? You think we're likely to have that?
Well, we're happy to see that. I mean, I have always said I could understand this extension of closure and these curfews. To me, everything was so contradictory, and especially us in the night and hospitality business. So all the matters that we've discussed in the past. The good thing is that we are moving into the Yuletide season. Whether we can still have a joyous season is still questionable in light of what's happening. But we should see a return of some sort of activity, a little more than what we've been experiencing. And it wouldn't take much to do that because you'll be down to almost zero. But I think people will come out. They obviously have an opportunity now to sort of feel a little more free, to be able to stay a little later, and to be able to, to have a little bit more socialization that we miss so much. I think when we first started back in October, we saw that. We saw people who just wanted to get back out. But the recent spiking, I think, has caused sort of put a little damper. I think I'll have to say what I want to say congratulations to the government that they have probably realized that the state of emergencies and these lockdowns and curfews are really borne no positive fruit. It has suppressed the population to the point that everybody has become a little numb. Everybody has lost any kind of feeling of really trying to live life again. Probably the younger ones are going to be so happy to get out of their homes and be able to at least mingle with their friends once again. But I think that the business community is so under pressure that they're going to be offering a lot of specials and discounts and buy one, get one free and that kind of thing. So there would be a little bit more for the consumers for this particular season. And of course, it's Christmas, so hopefully people will somehow light up their businesses and the Christmas trees will all lit up and give people a little bit of feeling of positiveness, which we are slowly lacking for quite a long time.
Yeah, you see, a lot of people don't understand that there is a whole psychological framework within which people operate and consumers and business operate. Taking $1 out of your pocket and paying for something is an act of freedom, and the commercial relationship of transactions also involve an element of the psychological feeling of freedom. The fact that you could make something or you can create a shop or a service or an opportunity in which people are willing to pay for it. There's a kind of psychological feeling of freedom in what is known as the traditional transactional arrangements of a capitalist order. Now, we know that that markets need to be managed and so on, but this COVID has had a devastating effect on the market everywhere in the world, and it also has had a psychological impact on people's sense of freedom as well, and it's going to take some doing to create those conditions again in which free commerce in your society becomes part of the environment, especially in a situation where people have to recover from having lost their jobs or not working, and then businesses, of course, having to recover from not being operational for nearly 6 months, 8 months, nearly 2 years almost in some instances. What is your feeling about that? Because I know this business of freedom is important to you.
Well, I think you're right in the sense we've seen a number of the large conglomerates actually giving back to their staff as something. We've seen a number of rentals at Movie Town for come and see a movie, and they use it to advertise some of their products. And they have like these private events which have turned out to be quite a successful venture for them, and we've had a couple in the last couple of weeks, which people, when they come out and they're dressed up and they're having a smile on their face, and they're so happy to be able to come out and be able, under the safe zone, to be able to see a movie with a company sponsoring it. So it has a psychological positive effect, and I think they're doing it to try and get that particular aspect back on track, out of the way where people have been depressed and locked up for so long. So, straight enough, we've been seeing that happening, that specifically with the movies, that we've had a couple good ones, meaning the James Bond and so on, and a lot of them have been actually booked out. People actually booking cinemas for their families and stuff, which is a whole new phenomenon for us. So, in a way, it's been a good thing from our perspective. But people, I think, are psychologically saying, listen, we just want to get out there and have that freedom to be able to enjoy and try to get back things a little bit to what they were. one of the points I also want to make is that, we live in a society, and I know I mentioned it to you before, that we tend to be too negative in everything we do. Trinidad, unfortunately, unlike many of the developed countries, I don't see a government trying to, or the people for that matter, not even the government, always think it's trying to get things done positively. We tend to be always negative. Come back tomorrow. If you're a public servant, they don't try to serve you right away. Everything can say no. And I think that is something, I don't know how we're going to turn our country around, but I'm right now in the United States, and even though they have their problems and they have their difficulty with the pandemic, everything is still very much positive. Places are open, people are trying to facilitate you. You check into a hotel, it's everybody's smiling and trying to make things happen, even though you have limited services and so on. In Trinidad, I find we tend to be too negative in everything. It's not about facilitating, it's all about creating barriers, and I think that's what's happening with even how we direct with the pandemic. It's too much suppression, and trying to do things that are more positive so that people can get out of this depression in a positive way. And I think we need to change that, and we need to sell that, because I find we're just too negative as a country,
Well, I agree with you. And we need positivity more than ever. And there is the mental problems that people are facing because of having been locked down all the time. I had a mental health professional here, and he indicated, that we don't really understand the psychological consequence of people not being able to go to work and get away from their home situation for 8 or 10 hours, and then going back home, and then all the children are there, and then you have situations that might not be perfect, and how problematic that is. But Derek, we've got to take a break now for commercials, but when I come back, what I want to talk about is the psychological condition for investment in Trinidad and Tobago. I want to talk about what's happening to entrepreneurial energy because of that. And I want you to talk a little bit about what you are doing in terms of trying to consolidate your business and get them to prosper once more, but also what you are thinking about in terms of investment. But I'll give you a little time to reflect on that, and we will take a break now for some commercials.
Sure.
Welcome to Lifetime Solutions, where you can trust your roof to us. Our services include custom fabrication, steel framing, roofing installation, on-site roll forming, roofing maintenance and services. Call 223-ROOF or 223-7663 for a quote today, or visit our website www.lifetimesolutionstt.com. Lifetime Solutions. You can trust your roof to us. Call 223-ROOF or 223-7663 for a quote today, or visit our website www.lifetimesolutionstt.com.
As businesses adapt to the new normal, let Magic Mist take care of your cleaning and sanitization needs with our COVID-19 BSCAI internationally certified technicians. With over 43 years of protecting the health of our nation, you can trust us to ensure your building remains safe, healthy, and functional. Give us a call today at 638-6675 or 332-5522. Magic Mist Services Limited, your total facilities management solutions provider.
Hey, how you doing? This is Big Rich, the Pungalunks. Dudu darlings, I am here. Every week I am here for you with the MCTV Top 20 Chutney Soca Countdown with all your top chutney artists. You're gonna love it. Join me every week on MCTV Chutney Soca Countdown. Top 20. Big Red say so.
Okay, this is Brighter Morning with Bo. I'm Bo Tiwari, and we're talking to Mr. Derek Chin, who is a businessman and entrepreneur. And we want to focus now on what's happening psychologically in terms of the business community. Now, recently we had the budget read. And to be fair to the Minister of Finance, he did create the conditions for the private sector to be much more active. He provided some incentives, although business people would probably argue that the incentives are at the end of the line rather than at the beginning. And basically, he wants to the private sector to play a more significant role in getting the economy to the point of recovery. Now, is this going to work given the psychological state of business, or is more required?
To me?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, certainly in terms of what you have mentioned earlier, when one is faced with all the challenges and all the negatives, you tend to say, well, boy, is it really worth it? Are there greener pastures if you do have a reserve of some sort to say, well, are you going to continue to invest in Trinidad? And in my case, we had a number of projects pending prior to the pandemic, and everything was put on hold. Obviously, it didn't make sense to do the things we wanted to do because there was just no business. And so we parked up whatever reserves we had and started to say, well, either we hold in Trinidad or we look for greener pastures elsewhere. And of course, we have other projects being developed in Guyana. So that sort of worked out well for us. But they also were experiencing similar situations, but probably a brighter, rosier future in lieu of their economic situation and their oil and energy resources. As an entrepreneur, one of the qualities is never say die. One of the qualities to have is never to give up. So it was always something, maybe in our case, to think of what do I do next in order that I could either stay in business, make my business better, and continue to sort of look at reviving the situation. And that's the position we took, that we have our projects on hold. They are good projects, but things have to happen on the side of the government to say, well, okay, they obviously realize or recognize the situation, and they have to try and make the climate a lot more rosier in light of the challenges, that people like myself and others can still feel that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So we have been sitting down with our directors, our staff, and our other investors to say, what do we do with our restaurant business? What do we do with our cinema business? Can we continue to run the same and survive? Because this pandemic doesn't look like it's going to go away tomorrow. So we've done a lot of restructuring. Yes, we've had to make some changes in terms of our overheads and our expenses. But we also looked at technology, do we invest now in robotics? Do we look at investing in new ideas, and do we tend to change up the way we do business? And of course, that's why I'm here right now in the States, because we are here at conventions where exactly that is what is being offered. How do we reinvent our businesses, not only to make them more efficient, which in a way has been a good thing from the pandemic, if one wants to find a good thing, to make it a lot more lean and mean, and to realize that everything counts now. We can't just take things for granted. So operating under a pandemic, operating under all the issues, if things were to get worse, can we survive another round? the closure, and what do we have to do in order to survive, and then eventually, hopefully in 2022, start to build back. So the removal of the curfew, and hopefully, and I wanted to believe that the curfew, meaning the health curfew and the state of emergency, will also all be gone, because somebody said that even if you remove the state of emergency, you may still have the health curfew. I'm not too sure if everything goes away come on Wednesday. But if that happens, which I hope it does, then we can now sort of start to see some light at the end of the tunnel in terms of getting the packaging, how to build back patrons, how to make your business into other areas. I'll give you one example. In our restaurant, and I know you're one of my patrons, we have actually started to look at investing in packaging and food processing and placing of products in supermarkets, which we never did before. So we've worked on making sure our brand is well recognized, making sure that we have the quality to ensure we have top-line product. We have improved our packaging, and strange enough, that particular aspect of the business has picked up. So out of nothing, something has happened.
You created something, yes.
That's right. And we're now looking at further developing that into a bigger range of products. So it's interesting, and I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I think, from a business point of view, there are many things that have become urgent, like what is it essential to do now, and how do you train for it? First of all, to get your people on board. What do you do differently, and how do you do it differently? And you have just mentioned one of the things that you got into. How you do more with less, because you have to be much more efficient and effective. And how do you make the products that you have more exciting, and how do you add to the mix to create that level of excitement that bring people to your door? And those are hard things, but they're also new investment decisions. What would the investments that you have parked up, what would prompt you in Trinidad and Tobago to consider going ahead with one or two of them? What would have to happen to make the climate right for you to want to invest?
Well, I think that, of course, the removal of these restrictions, which I feel
is one thing, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they're serving, or the government is seeing the kind of results, because even though all that we've been through in 2 years, we're still back, if not worse, as of today. So it tells you that it's not working, and maybe we should take the models of what we have, let's say, in Florida right now, which had a case of spikes and difficulties also. But coming here, you wouldn't believe that there's a pandemic, other than more people are wearing masks.
Yeah.
Yes, make sure you have protocols. Yes, work on those vaccinations, because the vaccinations, the facts around them say that they are a level of protection. That's the best we have right now. And allow, like the children, for example, the under 12, who I think you touched on briefly, who have been locked up for so long, and the psychological effect that they're enduring. I can't understand, if you have a safe zone, which is safe, it's a sterile environment, why children under 12 can't come there and get a little deep movie, but yet you allow them go into a mall which is unvaccinated or safe, or you go to a grocery, So I think these are the contradictions and reasons why the control over the spikes and so on are not going to happen the way that they had once predicted. So I would like to believe that children under 12 can also be allowed to come, because, as I said, the pool of people we have are very, very much depleted. And Trinidad is not a big place. 1.5 million people is a drop in the bucket. And unless we can get to maximize the amount of people we have there, the local market is going to continue to suffer. And I think these are the decisions that have to be made in the interest of the country overall.
All right, Derek, we've got to go because we've reached the 8 o'clock hour, and I want to thank you very much for taking time. I know you're involved in other things over there, and you took the time to talk with me. I'm very grateful. And we'll talk again another time because I want to monitor how this thing develops and what is likely to happen, because the things can go well or they can go badly. We will see. And I want to thank you very, very much for being my guest this morning on Brighter Morning.
Okay, thank you. I'll try and get this Zoom thing fixed on my side.
All right. No, I think it's the Wi-Fi there. It's the Wi-Fi.
Oh, okay.
If the Wi-Fi is weak, it's very hard to do this stuff.
To get the video.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
Thank you very much. Okay.
And all the best to you. Good luck. This is Brighter Morning with Bo. We've talked to Dr. Alan Sami on local government, and we talked to Mr. Derek Chin on the business and entrepreneurial issues related to the opening up of the state of emergency. We want to thank you for listening and watching. We'll be here tomorrow, and tomorrow we have two important guests again, as we did today. We have Claire Fitzpatrick, who is the president of BP for Trinidad and Tobago, and we have Minister Randall Mitchell, who is responsible for tourism, and we are going to be talking to each of these two guests in separate half-hour discussions. Hope you will be glued on tomorrow, and we will have a good program. Thank you very much. We move on now to Andrew Chan and the 8 o'clock news.